Hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. One thing I just noticed when I was looking at the agenda is that we have to be careful. We have not actually created subcommittees. I believe we created working groups. And the difference being if they are truly a subcommittee, they're required to post meeting agendas, meeting minutes, because they are public meetings. Working groups are not.
Okay.
That came up last time, and I think Julie clarified it for us. So we just, if we make subcommittees, that's fine. We just have to then be following the rules. So we just have to be consistent on how we refer to them.
Got it. Okay, I need to claim the host.
I'm not sure how I arrived here, earlier as the non-chair than I ever did as the actual chair.
I need to turn on closed captioning apparently.
That always crashes my Zoom.
So I shouldn't.
Yeah, it caught, well, at least for me, like it would go funky and then no control.
I think you have to do it, but if you make a co-host, that helps. Or at least gives you a backup plan.
Demira, where are we right now?
Yeah,
I'm chilling out. I'm just
Tropical Islands, unknown. I'm like, that's not Vermont.
And actually, Melissa, if you want to make me co-host, I have to present anyways, so.
Okay.
Or at least one of the co-hosts.
I was just reading through this directions from Sherry and there's all this stuff. I guess there's not that much stuff to do.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I am here, but I'm having some camera issues this evening. So you may be able to see me by the end.
Hi,
Are you
Ann.
in?
And nice photo of you in the paper with the rain barrels.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Oh. Well, there was a photo of you with a bunch of people in rain barrels.
Oh, nice. I'll have to look it up.
And Melissa, one thing, just make sure you call a meeting to order at 7, even if we don't have quorum. That's just
Okay.
what I learned as chair.
Yeah.
I think we do have quorum.
Okay.
What's a quorum? How many people is that?
51% of voting members.
Which is not the same definition as town meeting, but for here it's majority. Because
So,
town meeting is 1. That's quorum. In Wakefield.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay, calling to order at 7 on the dot. I don't think we have any people from the public. I don't see anybody. I don't know if we should give them a minute or not. I'm going to say no.
I was gonna say, as chair, you're always welcome to accept comments later. It's your discretion.
Correct.
I
Okay.
just want to note that Melissa has gotten us started, like it's our first meeting as chair, and she's already figured out all the stuff that, all the emails she got from Sherry before this. And so, and I believe the agenda was in even before the deadline. So I just kudos to Melissa because there's a lot that goes into this. So
Thank you. Trying to start off on the right foot. So approval of the minutes from May 12th. Was there any updates, Robin?
Yes, I received a couple grammatical, but nothing of content. So I've incorporated them, but I'd like to motion to approve them.
second,
That's it, right?
You think about now.
But you have to ask if there's discussion on a motion, but
Any discussion? Okay, you can vote. Robin,
yes.
Myra,
yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Dan. You're muted.
Yes.
Tiana,
It was too late. I missed the motion. Catch the next one.
The motion was to accept the minutes with your grammatical corrections.
Oh, in that case, yes, all set. Thanks.
Anne,
I need to sustain.
okay, Sean,
Yes.
all right. Motion passes. All right, next, well, let me share the agenda first. Everybody see that?
yes.
So next on the agenda, item 4, is updates to the mission statement and procedure processes to engage volunteers that Dan was working on. So Dan, I believe you have an update. You're muted.
Yeah. So, so there needs to be an addition to the documentation and stuff like that, which I had submitted. And I just, before I proceed with contacting people and so forth and so on, I think I need to get the approval of the committee in order to do this, which I don't think has happened yet.
Have you?
So let me tell you what's going on for those new people, as well as to kind of refresh what has been talked about a little bit in the past. We had a lot of applicants for ESC committee positions, and all of them looked pretty good, but only a few could be selected. And it was discussed at that point in time that perhaps we should contact the people that would not accepted and ask if they wanted to volunteer. The other thing is that this can go beyond that, in that we can open it up to all the citizens of Wakefield to volunteer. But I would suggest that we start with just the applicants first and see how they accept that and see how it goes. Managing volunteers is a little bit not difficult, but can be tedious. You need to keep them updated as to what's going on. You need to keep them motivated and all of that type of stuff. And the more volunteers that you have, the more that becomes a burden. The intent here is to utilize these volunteers to help us with the agendas and the tasks that we have. And basically, again, the thought here was volunteers would report directly to the committee member that's the head of a particular agenda item. And that I would kind of be in the background as a volunteer kind of manager, in a sense, that they could either go to if they can't contact the committee member, or if for other reasons and so forth. So if everybody is saying that this is a good thing that we should do, maybe we should vote upon it, and then we'll update the documents for the mission statement and the website that defines what a volunteer is. So
Dan, can I ask a question?
absolutely.
I think this is my round. I think there are two, I have two questions. So one is sort of, since we've never sort of been formal in volunteers, and some of the work that we're doing is sort of more about like policies, or, I mean, so when you're thinking about what the volunteers will do, I guess one question is sort of, is that driven by their interest? And we find a way to incorporate them, or are we thinking about, as we do some of our work, that we're sort of looking for opportunities for volunteers and then sort of put that out to people? Like, how does that work, or how do you see that working for this committee?
Yeah, typically when somebody volunteers, they become a pool, in a sense. And we kind of understand their capabilities, their passions, their, the things that they would like to do. But that's not necessarily where they would be placed in the queue of the volunteers, depending on what other people want, so forth and so on. And then this is, I think, where, the manager of the volunteers, that's what you want to call it, comes into play. The board members will not directly initially interact with the volunteers. This would be coordinated with, whoever is going to be doing the management of the volunteers. And that would be kind of the buffer. We would say that, we have these volunteer opportunities open. Are you interested? And then I could get that from all of the volunteers and then make decisions as to who's the best fit and who's, really interested in doing that particular type of volunteering.
It's great. I mean, it's sort of, to me, it's an odd distinction since we're all volunteers, right? And so it's a little bit of a sort of gray line, but I do think that there are times when we feel like we wish we could do more than we can, and having additional people would be really helpful. The other thing that you proposed was a sort of volunteer application. And I mean, I think that there's pluses and minuses to that, but I mean, I like the idea of like a more formal way to engage people to sort of, because you want people who are committed enough to sort of follow through when you need them to do something. And so I don't know, but we don't want to have a barrier, right? Because people are volunteering their time. And it's our sort of first round of volunteers. And so I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on the sort of pluses and minuses of like, everybody come in and help us out, or like the sort of more application, which is a little bit more formal.
Yeah, I don't look at it as a formal application. I look at it as a media in order to inform them what volunteering is all about, what are the possible activities and agendas and so forth and so on that they would be involved with, to kind of give them a heads up and kind of let them understand what volunteering would mean. The other thing is that, I'm not sure that the volunteers should be part of these meetings. Certainly they can, because the public can as well. But it wouldn't be a requirement for them to do that per se. A lot of the volunteers probably would do a lot of the work in the background like we do, okay? And so two things. First of all, to inform them what it's all about and what our expectations are, so that, they don't come in, blind. And then the second thing is to kind of make a list of the current agendas that we have where we do need help. and so forth. And then they can, on this quote application, maybe that's the wrong word, they can state, well, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in this. And then we can coordinate if there's, if there's 3 people interested in the same thing. We can take a look at their background and say, well, this person probably is best for that particular volunteering agenda item.
Yeah, I was kind of hesitant to go with the formal application too, just because I don't know, it's maybe too formal for, what we're trying to do. And I was thinking, like, I don't think we should really assign people to things. Like, if they're volunteering for a reason about a specific issue that they're passionate about. So assigning somebody something that they're not really interested in wouldn't really work out, I don't think. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, okay. So, I've handled a lot of volunteers for many, many years. What I found more effective is if they really know, it's just like a job description in a sense. It's what they really know what's expected of them and what they're going to be doing and so forth and so on, instead of having it like a free form type of thing where they come in and, well, what am I going to do now? And so forth and so on. I feel a little structure goes a long way in order to make the volunteers feel worthwhile, to give them an idea of what they're going to be doing and to support them in doing that. Let me give you an example. All right. I applied for the board member. I had no clue what I was doing. All right. I didn't know what a board member did and so forth. And there was no documentation. And really, I didn't know who to talk to or who to help. And there was no mentor or anything else like that. And I kind of like thrown in the water and trying to figure out, well, what is this all about? What am I supposed to be doing? And so forth and so on. And I think that, the volunteers need a little bit something better than that.
I agree. It's interesting because we've had a number of people reach out to us over the course of the, like last couple of years with passions that, like, for example, I can think of 3 people in town who are really interested in trees. And I don't, we have never really done a lot on trees. Like Tom did connect some of them to the Gas and Light to have a conversation about native trees and, but I think that could be an opportunity. And it's work that doesn't necessarily need to be done by members of this committee. But we could find a way to sort of connect them together and support them and work with them to figure out, what it is or what it is that they want to do. And so to me, I think is a way to sort of broaden our scope in addition to any kind of events that we would want to do, or the composting coming up, or, I think that's another area where volunteers will be critical.
Again, from my standpoint, because this is kind of new, both to the, it's so volunteers typically, it's for a company or it's for an organization and stuff like that. It's very straightforward as to what they're going to be doing.
Right.
And this is a little bit murky. And I would like to go slower than faster, and ease into it and see what's, how things work and what are the best methods for doing this and so forth, before opening it up to the general public, so to speak, as well. And I take your point, Maya, that it doesn't necessarily have to be anything for, ESC. It could be for anything that's in Wakefield. But again, before we kind of spread out that, I think we ought to put it in place here, see how it works, see how, what works, what doesn't work. And then, slowly open it up to the other departments in Wakefield, and go from there.
Dan, one thing I'm struggling with is if there's a resident in town, why do they feel that they have to be kind of formally acknowledged as a volunteer versus just a citizen speaking up and doing something? I guess I'm trying to understand the difference.
It gives them a sense of so anybody can join any of these meetings, and anybody can have a comment and stuff like that. But when you volunteer, you're actively involved in particular agendas and so forth and so on. And I think that that's the difference. So I instead of having a suggestion or saying, I think we should do this, or, in that type of stuff, it gives them a little bit more focus and a little bit more responsibility.
I mean, so I'm thinking of Andy and the woman whose name I can't think of, it does the food rescue.
Diane.
Thank you. No, they separately, I think predating even us existing, are doing something, volunteering that could have conceived as being kind of under our umbrella, but is separate. And so I wonder if this could discourage folks from creating other moments for them to benefit the town because they feel like they have to be vetted. That's the concern.
Well, what if we
Well,
did?
they're not being vetted per se. What they're doing is they're just filling out a form, giving us some information, and we
Okay.
don't vet them on that.
Okay. I guess maybe perceived as vetting because it's, and maybe I am stuck on the word application. You wanna
Yeah,
say
again,
something,
maybe
Julie?
it's the wrong word.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
What if our role is something like to have an environment? First of all, there's so much stuff happening in town that is not under us, right? There's tree initiatives and, like you said, Cheyenne and food rescue and sustainable Wakefield and safe streets. I can probably rattle off 15 things that could be construed as environmental that are happening in town that are not directly related to us. But we kind of have this, I think people come to us because they, it could fall under us, but we don't have the bandwidth to do it. But what if one of our activities this year is to kind of do like an environmental fair where we showcase everything that is happening in town and get each of these little subgroups to kind of, people could sign up for what they want at tables or a virtual showcase or something. That's just a thought rather than kind of us trying to coordinate all of this.
Yeah, I think it may be more incumbent on us to say, here's where we as a body and committee and subcommittee need help with, whether it is, people to help grant write or subject matter experts, or just to help do the work that needs to be done. And so that, I think that's incumbent on this body to say, here's the things we're working on, and here's the things that we need help with. Would you like to volunteer? And then, solicit those volunteers. And then once people volunteer for that, to Dan's point, that we have a framework and a guide of here's what's expected in terms of, here's what we need to have done. And would like help with. It's not a help if you volunteer for something and then don't do the work that you said that you would do. And that could be as simple as, the ESC is having, we'll be at an event and we need 3 people to staff, 1 hour shifts. And, you'll be expected to, be beside a board member to talk about the things that the ESC does. So, as part of that, that person would be brought up to speed on the, kind of initiatives that are being focused on that particular day. So, that's kind of how I think about a volunteer.
Yeah, instead of application, we could just say like questionnaire or something.
Yeah. Or just a notification of I'd like to help. And then that doesn't preclude it, to the Andy Brays of the world doing their own thing, whether it's in conjunction or on their own.
People can feel free to do whatever. If they want to get involved with us, they can too.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, we have people, there are people on the Master Plan Advisory Committee who, I won't be so cruel as to call out our newest members of our committee, though I'd be very curious about your all thought on this as newer residents of Wakefield. But I think that there are people who are finding ways to be involved in town. And it took me a lot longer than it took these individuals to figure out how to be involved, or how to sort of be constructive, you know, in a way that felt satisfying to me. But it is hard to break into. And I know, you know, I have a number of neighbors, for example, who like are interested in a lot of things, but they're not on Facebook, and they, you know, they just have no idea how, you know, they ask me questions because they don't know how to get involved in town. And so I do think having some structure could be a way, you know, where there's a lot of people who are really interested in these issues who may not know how to connect with us or how to start something on their own. And so I think it is a good time to put structure here. And I think Dan is a great person to do it because of your experience. And so I sort of don't, I still can't believe that people volunteered to pick up trash, but you know, there were 50 people on each of those Saturdays picking up a whole lot of trash. And so I think there's real potential.
I second.
Go ahead, Robin.
I was gonna say I second Myra's suggestion that based on Dan's experience and what you shared, that you sound like a great manager for it.
Dan, I think you're muted.
You're on mute.
We're not hearing you, Dan. You're on mute.
All right. So I think that in anything, whether it's volunteering or whether it's internship or whether it's, you know, a job and so forth and so on, having structure, people tend to perform a lot better because they know what's expected at this point in time. Not, oh, let's see, what do I need to do and so forth and so on. And I'm not saying that this is, we're going to rate them. We're going to grade them and stuff like that. It's just to help them, to set up an environment that allows them to succeed in the job of volunteering.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think that I agree with Tom's point of, needing to identify a few of those focus areas, and maybe we don't have to have all of the action items known up front, but just as like initial discovery phase to understand who's interested, what they're interested in, for us to kind of identify where we think some of that support is needed. Some sort of intake form or, sign up sheet, and people express that they're interested. We have them on a contact list, and we can say we'll reach out, if and when there's more specific opportunities to get them engaged. But that would allow us to kind of see who they are, and then also can put forth a few of the things that we know generally we need some support in, and kind of see where there's some response.
Yeah, and I guess, people are hung up on the word, application and that type of stuff. Like, let's call it a flyer. I mean, I don't care what you call it. All right. The intent is to let people know that we're looking for this type of stuff and an avenue for them to approach us with.
Yeah, I mean, I foresee something like an announcement saying like call for volunteers for the Environmental Sustainability Committee. Here's a questionnaire to let us know what your interests are, what your availability is, like a bunch of that kind of basic information. And then we'll say, we'll get in touch with you when we have opportunities that you may be interested in, or we have volunteer events or something like that.
And the other thing is, that in the background, what we can do is, as ESC members, is put together a list of how we can use volunteers. What are they going to be doing? And so I think, before I send out any information and stuff like that, we need to put our ducks in a row as well, to say what's needed, where is it needed, and maybe again. a brief overview of what we're doing, have them read the mission statement and stuff like that, and then respond. So
I think that's a great idea. I also think we should have like a mailing list, a contact list of people who are interested. I mean, I'm looking at this agenda, and the topics we're going to be talking about, like the bylaw changes and the school committee, the building updates coming, and some of the open space plan ideas, or the other sort of subcommittees. We need the more that we have like a coalition or people we can, whether or not it's volunteers to like show up at town meeting and hopefully support a bylaw. I do think it's worth, having some, and I know we can't, and it's hard as a town body, but just sort of to build awareness around some of the topics that we're talking about, because they're really important and they're also sort of pretty, technical. And so having a contact list might be helpful. Meet Calvin.
Are there restrictions on, like, I know the agenda gets posted a little before the meeting, but is there any reason why we couldn't also send it to an email list of the people who signed up on our volunteer form and even give a little more color? Like, we'll be talking about this, about the bylaws. It'd be great to have people who care come and hear more about it so that you can voice support at the next, like, I know there's a restriction that these meetings be open.
No,
No,
the
you can.
agenda is open, it's,
Yeah.
once it's posted, it's public,
Mhm.
anyone can go to it on the town website. So absolutely, there's no reason why it can't be disseminated to some sort of distribution list.
You can sign up to be on a distribution list
Right,
for
yep.
the
I'm
any
on it,
committee.
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, I know I'd be a little worried around adding color, as long as only one person were writing it, I guess. We just can't deliberate on what we would tell people.
Well, you personally can post anywhere or anyhow to say, hey, folks, we have this discussion on this. Who is interested and wants to come to add to the discussion? So you can do your own shout out and add I'm excited about lake cleanup and I'd love to hear more input, so that maybe the color tone you're looking at is totally fine.
But the body itself can't, if we were to
Yes.
have, say, an email address that's, from the Environmental Sustainability Committee, we could just simply say, hey, our next meeting is on X and here's the agenda. There could be no opinion or discussion or anything else of that nature from Robert's rules, open meeting law.
yeah, so as the manager of a volunteer group and so forth and so on, we may, just like the student volunteers, list them on the website, okay? And then that automatically becomes, they become a recipient of things that go out at that point in time.
I mean, I think that's great. Like when we give out the rain barrels, we're always looking for like 3 people to come help us distribute them at the DPW. I mean, if we have a list, we just send it out and saying, call for volunteers, show up if you want to help.
When Melissa and I were at the recycle event with you, there was, I got like 6 times too much plastic. And there was a call for like, well, you should be at every farmer's market. Maybe not every, but if we had half a dozen people, we could pick a few and split it up. I don't think Melissa and I would necessarily want to sign up to be at every farmer's market table, but having more hands for just the being there kind of stuff, which I think is a very different ask than grant writing or something that is more thoughtful and intensive.
Okay,
Yeah,
the other thing is this is going to be a work in
different types
progress.
of things.
This is going to be a work in progress. I mean, we can't make all decisions as to what we're going to be doing right now. I think the best thing to do, because we spent a half an hour on this already, is to say, yeah, we're going to do it, or no, we're not going to do it. And if we're going to do it, then I'll do some work in the background and distribute some more information, get some more information from everybody that's on the committee, and then we can talk some more about this in the next meeting.
I think you have our support, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like all wrapping our heads around it because it's new, but I think you have full support.
Okay, I didn't know if it needed to be formal or not, so, but, all right, I'll take that as formal, and
Robin?
I'll take it from there.
We don't need
we
to vote, do we?
We didn't
Because we're
advertise a
making-
vote, so we can't vote because it's not an emergency situation.
Yeah, okay, so the only reason that I'm saying this is because we're changing the mission statement.
Well, I actually would want to see what you're suggesting the mission. I know that you talked about it last time, but I don't remember.
You didn't see it?
I don't remember it enough, so I think that we should distribute it as to the meeting, members, and next week or next month or whatever the next meeting is, then we vote on it because I think
I'll do that, okay,
Yeah, I'm
so
not
I
sure if I've
sent it,
ever
I
seen it.
sent it to
Yeah.
Myra thinking that she was still chair, who sent it to Melissa. And I guess they needed some more information before they could distribute it to everybody else.
so. Yeah,
Yeah, I think, I was just gonna say, I think sending out that mission statement and then like taking our comments from today and kind of maybe revising the questionnaire for volunteers and sending that around as well, so that we can take a look before next meeting, and then maybe we can just vote on it next meeting as after people reviewed it.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Thanks, Dan. Next is item 5, talking about the next steps for the electric charging and solar readiness bylaws. Tom?
Sure. Let's see here. First share. And this is going. Melissa, you gotta stop sharing.
Yep.
So let's see here. I will preface this with, can everyone see my screen first?
Yep.
Okay. So a couple of things tie into this. So as we all know, that we looked at kind of writing our own bylaws to do PV and EV readiness.
I want to just stop. Can I stop you? Chris and Tiana, I'm not sure they were there for the first conversation, if that's going to be included in here.
No, it's just, I just wanted to kind of, the first conversation is just more around awareness. So I was looking at kind of just back history. We as a town are looking to do solar ready or solar install with new construction, and EV ready and installed with new construction, kind of crossing residential and multifamily businesses as a bylaw within the town, because some of the stuff that we're seeing is new construction is happening. We've kind of been asking for some of this stuff as a utility, and the developers are saying, yeah, it's not codified. We're not doing it. It's a nice idea, but we're not being forced to do that. We tried to, I had a whole section kind of bylaws written out. We ran into some challenges and didn't get it in for a warrant article in the fall town meeting. Subsequently, since then, or I should say for Springtown meeting, is that as may or may not know, as part of Green Communities, we adopted the Energy Stretch Code, which is being revised, and it's part of the Climate Act of 2021. The Department of Energy, which is, I will go through their deck here in a moment, has been tasked to updating the stretch code, the base code, the stretch code, and a new opt-in specialized code to align the building codes and the energy efficiency codes to the Climate Act of 2021 to meet the goals of 2030, 2040, and 2050 from a greenhouse gas emissions. So kind of pivoting is a lot of the stuff that we wanted to do in PV ready and EV ready are going to be codified as part of the stretch code that we've already adopted. So when the new stretch code gets implemented, we will bring that in automatically as a town because we've already adopted that. As part of that, there is this new specialized opt-in code that would need to go to town meeting for to be adopted by us as a town, which pushes a lot of the things that we were looking to do in the bylaw and the kind of PV EV ready space. This presentation is about an hour. I'm going to try to do it in about 10-15 minutes to condense this. But if anyone wants to watch this whole thing, we'll do it. But this is the straw code that they took comment on. There may be some updates, but we potentially could vote as a town. They hope to have this in place in December, and we could vote in whatever our next town meeting is after December of 2022. Any questions before I kind of go through this?
Tom, so in December, the stretch code part that we would automatically accept, that goes into effect in December, and then subsequently we would have the option as a town to sign on to the opt-in part.
Correct. Yep. So the base, actually the base, so there's 3 parts in this, all kind of covers that. There's the base code that's getting updated. We will automatically be whatever, so they're going from the 2018 base code to the 2021 base code. We will automatically get that. And then the stretch code, the changes in there, we will automatically get that. Those all take effect in January 1st. And then they have what they call, it's a transition year. So there's some stuff built into the code to transition. And then basically everything that's in here would be effective on January 1st of 2024. So it's actually very thorough. And I think it addresses a lot of the things that we were looking to do as well. So any questions before? Go on. All right, so this was the mass emissions by sector, and as you can see, most of where the work that needs to be done is both in transportation and building code. There's from an energy perspective, electricity, we've been really pushing that down. So the big low-hanging fruit is around buildings and transportation. So that's where the work has been focused, and that's where this bill or this stretch code is focused on. Some of the interesting things that they've seen is that 1% of all new square footage is new construction. So there's a pretty big chunk in new construction coming forth. And then the other interesting part is that 27% of all new space will be built after 2023. So we're really targeting those new construction, which we've already done with kind of the stretch code. They've been analyzing this for 2 to 3 years in terms of life cycle costs and updating the stretch code and aligning the timings with the Climate Active 2021. And kind of the savings that they're seeing is over $21 billion in life cycle costs by adopting these new, by adopting the stretch code, which we've already done, and the specialized code. This is just the straw code. So with that, we're already at the base code. They're going to be updating that to the IECC 2021. The Climate Act of 2021, as I said, is matching us to that roadmap. The big part of this is the specialized code, which allows us as a municipality to really drive that to net zero, and it gives us the pathways to achieve those goals that have been set by the state of the 2021 Climate Act. So this opt-in is really going to help us as a town to get to those goals that have been set. 52 municipalities. We're actually in this 299 because we are in the application process and should be accepted into the program here real soon. And I know that Julie probably has an update on that. So like I said, the base code, will automatically get this. They essentially update the base code every 3 years, the stretch code every 3 to 5 years. And then there's this new specialized opt-in code. They're laying out here as they're trying to align all of these parts and pieces to make it easier on the building for developers that everything is aligned and everything is simpler to follow from a code proposal and adoption rates. They did a lot
Tom,
of-
can I just add something for a second, just so folks know? A couple years ago, the legislation actually passed a law saying we were required to update the energy code references every 3 years. So the energy code that we follow is created by something called ICC, but so they issue a new version every 3 years. And so Massachusetts decided, you know what, every 3 years we need to be following along. We have yet to follow the law on signing on the new rules as soon as they come available. So this is them trying to help them, you know, meet rules that they've already set for themselves.
Exactly. So they're, like I said, they're matching these here, and hopefully they get on that track of, you know, kind of getting the IECC every 3 years. They did 12 building types of analysis, and in analyzing the ways that the stretch code work. And the focus of this was the upfront development cost, building costs, operational costs, and total cost of ownership. And then using those 12 different types of buildings. And the goal really was to make building as cheap and efficient as possible, and marrying those two things together and driving the efficiencies all around the total cost of ownership in there. And so some of the things that they actually noticed is building to these standards sometimes was actually cheaper and operationally much cheaper to operate, and driving down greenhouse gas emissions. So the biggest part of greenhouse gas emissions here in New England is heating. So you'll kind of see that theme throughout these slides here that they've put together. Basically, they covered all sorts of different buildings, and as you can see here, one of them, high school. We're going to be putting 2 of those in here real shortly. And we cover almost all of these things except for probably the high-rise type buildings. So one of the big things that they did in the code is that they focused on natural gas versus electrification, and with the assumption that the electrical grid, which we've already seen, we're reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So the premise of this is if you electrify or make your building electric ready, just by the nature of being on the electric grid to do all of those things, you're driving down the greenhouse gas emissions. And whereas the grid gets greener, we're pulling the buildings along. Whereas if you heat a home by natural gas, the best efficiency that you can get is 98%. With an electric home using a air source heat pump, that's 300%. As a heat pump does not create heat, it just moves heat back and forth. And a ground source heat pump is 400%. Any questions or anything? So one of their, oh, go ahead.
Sorry if I could. Has the town or the municipal utility done any studies on electrification to understand if and when this code goes into effect, what other impacts that's going to have to the infrastructure in the town?
Yeah, so we are very ready for electrification. Our secondaries we're well ahead of the curve from a infrastructure standpoint. The things that we have studied that may be impacted, and this is more around the retrofit of stuff, is the individualized services. So coming once the aerial hits the home or business, everything from within. Where this code here, we're just talking about new construction. But to answer your question, we're 100% ready for this electrification that's coming. But all right. So this is broken down into two parts, both residential and commercial. And the way that the stretch code works is on the HERS rating. The HERS rating is a way to rate a building and its efficiency. It is used across the industry. It is used across Mass and the rest of the country. As you can see here, what they're showing is the HERS rating when the stretch codes all started. They used a baseline in 2006 of 100 in the base code. The green part here is the stretch code. As you can see, the past 3 iterations, while the base code and the HERS code have not, they've been in lockstep. So it's been 55 and 65 earlier. Whereas the new code, they're actually going to start to change the stretch code, make it stretchy from the base code here. The way that they're looking at this is they're not going to preclude fossil fuels for a home or business. Still can do that, and that will just be an important part of my update from Gas and Light. But for a fossil fuel home, this is the stretch code that we're already adopted. This is not the specialized code. The HERS rating for a fossil fuel home is going to require 42. An electric home will be 45. And then the passive house will essentially be 42. They talk about that a little bit. And then in the transition year, it'll be 52 and 55. As part of their analysis of this, they ran all of those scenarios across those 4 types of homes. And we're, again, comparing the cost to build versus the efficiencies that are driven from those tightening up the envelope. And what they found is both in commercial and residential, the money spent to tighten up a building's envelope really drive down the amount of heat that is needed, which then also ties into the equipment. So the HVAC systems don't need to be sized as large as well. So at 42, and this is where their analysis came in, the cost effectiveness and the cost to do gas versus heat pump are essentially the same to build. And then obviously the heat pump is cheaper to operate. What they did is they gave the 45 HERS rating on the electric home as a kind of a little wiggle room to do other things. Whereas the 42, if you do fossil fuel, the 42 forces you to kind of do other things like better windows, better insulation, and that, so that while you're reducing, the goal here is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So if you make the building tighter, you need less heat, and then you can kind of see the emissions impacts of the current code versus a gas at 42, and then an electric heat pump at HERS 42 as well. I touched upon this as well. The incremental costs in terms of building, when you're talking about new construction, these are not significant. These are not significant cost increases to those buildings. These are not really applicable to us because we're not a mass save community. So what this is the part that potentially we as ESC will bring forth to probably the spring town meeting in 2023 to opt into the specialized code, which is to really help us drive to that net zero. It is keeping and consistent with the 2050 roadmap, going all electric. And then if fossil fuel is use to build a home or business, it will require solar PV and pre-wiring for electrification of the whole home. So this is kind of what a home would look like for the specialized opt-in net zero code compliance for a house that is utilizing fossil fuels. So you would still have to go comply with all the stretch code, and then plus that, the builder would need to install solar on the home's roof where it is unshaded, and as long as the home supports that and all of the things that go along with solar. And then everywhere else, the building needs to be pre-wired for electrification. So that includes cooking, water heating, dryer. So any appliances that would be on fossil fuel, you would have to wire in for electrification to eventually change that over. And then in the HERS 45, so for an all electric home, the opt-in code really doesn't change anything from what is already in the stretch code. And then all cases, we need to pre-wire for EV ready. In the stretch code, one spot is EV ready for home, and then 10% for everything else of spots is EV ready. With the opt-in code, that moves all spots for all building types to 20% as being EV ready for that. This kind of gives you shows you the 3 different paths of how this opt-in code changes a new construction depending on the type of heating that is done. So if it is an all-electric home, all the stretch code applies. So you've met that. If it is a propane gas fossil fuel, they've got to hit a HERS 42, meet all the stretch code plus solar on the roof plus pre-wiring for electrification. And then passive house is electric heat or electrification ready. This just kind of shows you what a HERS 42 all electric would look like, whether that's air source or ground source heat pumps. And then the fossil fuel home as well. The commercial based, they really, again, improve the envelope, reduce HVAC. They wanted to make sure that they included curtain walls, which is a type of construction for buildings that have all glass facades, and allowing for that, the glazing, and I'm going to just blow through all this, the thermal bridging, all of these things are included. The net of it is that the cost in greenhouse gas reductions from the existing code to the new code are fairly significant. They were estimating that it is 1 to 9% in life cycle cost improvements. And then the incremental builds costs, and actually in some areas, it costs less to build. And you can see the greenhouse gas reductions are pretty significant, starting at essentially 25% and going up from there. Today in the stretch code, we essentially have the 4 paths. This targeted performance pathway, or known as TEDI, which I'll touch upon here, gets added in with the new code. So today we don't have this targeted performance, the TEDI. This will come in the stretch code. This is not the additional opt-in code. So all of this is coming in the stretch code. They're improving the envelope. Air infiltration is getting an update, so 0.4 to 0.25. And So a lot of this was a big point that they made is that the ventilation energy recovery, there's a lot of exceptions in today's code. The new stretch code really gets rid of a lot of those exemptions and brings the effectiveness up to that 80%. So the TEDI code here is, as you can see, is that by tightening up the building envelope, the current code to the proposed code really has a huge reduction in the amount of heat it takes to heat a building by 90%. The big savings is in the HVAC, the amount of equipment, the complexity, by tightening up the building envelope. So it's and then it also makes it easier to electrify. So I think that that's an important point, is that being built to the TEDI standard, that a building can be much easier to be electrified under the new code than it is under the existing code. They also took a kind of a analytic approach in the TEDI limits and doing different limits for different building sizes and scoring for that. And they also are including cooling TEDI limits as well. Yeah, we can skip over that. And then very much like the residential, the specialized opt-in code really focuses on the fossil fuel buildings here as well, where they have to meet all the stretch code plus put solar on the roof and make electrification ready as well. So this is what we have today as part of the stretch code here in the middle block. The additional opt-in code is what this block here on the right is the additional EV wiring plus PV and pre-wiring on fossil fuels. With the opt-in code, pushes units that are 6+ for multifamilies into the passive code. The passive code is essentially a HERS 34. It is a way of building a home or business commercial that is super stringent in terms of its envelope. They've had a bit of success with passive home building here in Mass. They were saying that there was less than 20 passive homes built in 2018. Today there's over 6,500 that have been done. And one of the things that's come out of this is that they've done analysis, and both the CEC and the DORE have done detailed cost analysis, and they've both come up with basically it costs 1.4 to 3% more to build a passive home, whereas the Pennsylvania Housing Authority has seen actual costs. It actually costs less to build a passive home than it does using base code. And as an interesting thing is that they adopted this in 2015, but the early years, they were seeing much higher cost to construction versus the out years of 2018 that the cost of construction had dropped. So the industry is learning from this. They're developing it and they know how to do it, and they know how to do it cost effectively. So
Tom, can I just add something? So one thing folks should know is that passive house as a brand of way of evaluating building envelope tightness is actually originally from Europe, especially Germany. So it is not a practice that is not unlike climate that we're familiar with. When people often hear about that level of needs, like, oh my God, but we have the heating needs and so forth. This was designed with a climate that knew all that. So it's not something that's not comparable to where we live.
Yep. And there is, I put it down in my notes, I forgot to mention it. There currently in Mass, there are 165 construction firms and design firms registered in Mass that are specialized in passive building, both residential and commercial. So it is a growing part of the industry, and as you can see, it is being adopted quickly. From a go ahead.
Sorry, Tom. So for this under this stretch code, I know there's like a certification process for passive house.
Yep.
The code would not require full formal certifications, just adopting the construction standards and code language and stuff from the Passive House Institute or whatever it is.
Correct. So the way that our stretch code works is that when you build here in Wakefield, when the new stretch code, even today's stretch code, right? Passive house is part of our stretch code. There are 3 paths or pathways to get your certification, which is the HERS rating, the passive home, and I forget what the third one is. So when whoever is designing and constructing that, they pick their methodology that they want to certify their construction on to meet our code requirements or the stretch code requirements. So a home doesn't need to be passive. They can just they can opt to do passive, except for if we do the specialized opt-in. Any multifamily that is 6 or more units would be forced into the passive route because they are much more efficient as part of new construction. So from a timeline perspective, they hope to have this all finalized, what the base code, the stretch code, and the specialized opt-in code all looks like by December of this year. And then once the specialized opt-in is finalized and pushed out, municipalities can start to opt into through their body town meeting or so on and so forth to opt into the specialized code as part of their building code. So and one of the things, my updates will be, we as the Gas and Light Board, we talked about potentially expanding the gas moratorium to single family homes. We are not going to do that. We're still staying with the multifamily moratorium. And one of the reasons is we as a utility can say, no, you wouldn't, we're not going to provide you with natural gas service, but we have no authority to say, if you're building a new home that you would put propane or oil, which are all things that we don't, directionality that we don't want folks to go in. So the way to, kind of move towards electrification is going to be through code. And I think the easiest path for us is, obviously we have the stretch code in place, but opt into the specialized code. Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks. I was just going to ask I know the stretch code updates come from ICC, as you mentioned earlier. Is the specialized opt-in code something that just Massachusetts developed, especially because of the Climate Act 2021?
Correct. Yeah. So the IECC is in the base code. And then Mass has, and they're basing some of this on the IECC, and then they're also doing some specialized Mass stuff in the stretch code. And then as part of the Climate Act, the Department of Energy was directed by the Climate Act to make a specialized opt-in code to help municipalities, to give the municipalities the pathway to achieve the goals that have been laid out in the Climate Act of 2021. So the specialized code here really is our roadmap on achieving the things that have been mandated in the Climate Act.
I just had one more question, then I'll be quiet. But
No.
Timing wise, if this does get adopted, is it going to be in place to go into effect for projects like the new school?
So we're already under the stretch code that was last updated in 2018. So we would the new high school would fall under, the new stretch code. If all things go forward, the new stretch code would be, in place for January 1st, 2023. And then, they do use that as a transition year. So wherever, I would assume that the new high school would fall under the new stretch code and the opt-in code. And Robin, I know you're more of an expert on that, from a.
So the code that is to be used is based on the date of filing for the building permit. So the discussions they have now, they can be looking to proposed codes, but we don't typically design to them because they can change or get deleted or so forth. But, since they're and still in the preliminary study portion, and do not, be submitting any building applications for a year and a half, then yes, if the state follows their schedule that they hope, then that code will be in effect at the point at which they file. And the vocational school should also be,
Yeah, so I think, from an ESC perspective, if we do want to follow, and I think we should, get the specialized code in the first town meeting that we can, as a warrant article, sponsored by us, as soon as, the state is finished with this.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering, because last time we talked, we were like gonna go for it for the most recent town meeting, and now it's kind of pushed till next year. So what's happened between then and now?
So the things that I had for the PV EV ready, that I was proposing were, kind of just one-off, would have been, Wakefield bylaws in ourselves, and we would have had to weave those into our construction code, which then gets us into kind of a legal issue. So one thing with building codes, a town can't just write a bylaw that supersedes building codes in that. So instead of doing this on our own, because timing is everything here, is because the state is now coming out with, we'll be under the new stretch code, and then we have this new specialized opt-in that essentially achieves a lot of the things that would have been under our own PV and EV ready that we were looking at prior. And this puts us in alignment with everyone else within the state that has the stretch code and that opts in. So there's I'm trying to think of the word, sameness across towns and cities. So
consistency.
Consistency. Thank you. Versus having a specialized just for Wakefield. I think that this is the better path. Just my opinion.
So then you're suggesting a warrant for this for the fall town meeting? Is that what you're saying?
No, well, so we wouldn't be able to do it for fall because the weekend. I did check with our person over at the Department of Energy, because I did have that question. I was like, hey, we know that the specialized code's coming, our fall town meeting. Can we, proactively say we want in to that? And the answer was no, because it's not finalized, so we can't accept a bylaw or a building code that isn't finalized and do that. So the earliest, if the state, and as part of the Climate Act, they are mandated to have this all in place by December of this year. So, potentially our meeting in January, we would vote to, accept the language for what we would want to submit for a warrant article at the next town meeting.
I want to add that there are public hearings. There have been, and there will be more public hearings on getting this adopted at the state level to be available to us. And so always having folks either attend or write letters of support is encouraged. If you're interested.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind. So the last one was comments by March 9th. So I think that they're in the,
Yeah, but I think then it has to still go to BBRS.
Yeah.
So Dio, or you may have had theirs, but I can,
So that was,
yeah. I've been trying to find the latest, looking it up, and the BBRS's future meetings aren't listed. So if you're interested, feel free to help me digging on other opportunities. Yep.
we can chat with Neil if Neil might have information around that. But, and again, this is not, what's in here. This is just a straw proposal. So the state may change some of this, but wanted to give everyone an update of where we're at, get thoughts, feedback.
Well, Tom, I'm in support of not going through the effort of trying to create a unique Wakefield's bylaws and using kind of a state, because it's been vetted on so many levels. It comes with a lot of data of people's concerns on financial and different building types. And so it kind of has that comfort for folks to know, as opposed to us trying to, we had our own conversation and a lot of questions about equity and discouraging of things and stuff like that. And we don't have the capacity to kind of go through it all. So this is great that they're kind of on the same page. Maybe ours would have been slightly more aggressive, but maybe that's just too much in going out ahead of them.
Absolutely. And their new code is, it's stretchy, and the specialized is even more, and it aligns, their goal is to align it to the state goals, which I think we should be in lockstep with that as well, at a minimum.
Robin, can I go back to what you said about whether they would design to this or not? So the high school, we'll probably have a special town meeting for the high school in January.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure I want these two things on the same, that's going to bring a lot of people out and a lot of discussion, but
well, Tom wasn't suggesting we'd be in a special town meeting. He was suggesting the spring town.
No. So I think spring town meeting, but my question is, if the high school theoretically passes in January,
mm-hmm.
and we do this in spring, will it apply to the high school?
We didn't file for a building permit.
Ah, okay.
The vote in January is financial.
You're right. Okay.
The only thing you're asked of is, do you agree to pay the money? What is good, SMA is following all of this, and they, we've talked to them about a lot of concerns and stuff like that. So not that they're not designing it, but the nuance of some of the rules, we can't, because of, they change at the last minute.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
And Julie, a lot of the stuff I've seen with it, definitely our high school, we would have, I think our new high school basically meets the specialized opt-in as it's designed today.
Great. We don't need that extra.
Yeah, there may be,
okay.
There may be some of the more finer nuances in the envelope, but we're going all electric, so we're gonna fall.
It's huge, and I know you'll report on that. I heard some good news on that today too. So it's big. Yeah.
So I'm not concerned, from even the vote either,
okay.
From those aspects. But I do think what we were trying to achieve from the PV EV ready, the specialized opt-in really gets us there, and in some aspects it pushes those that do and no problem in terms of if they want to build with fossil fuels, that they're in positionality to be net zero, because they'll have the infrastructure in place for electrification. They'll have to put solar on their roof if the site is solar appropriate. So all of the things that we were kind of achieving through our own bylaws that we had batted around, I think it's mostly in here. And and again, this is the continuity across the state. Do we want to potentially, once we put this in, some of the things that we liked about the EV ready with the options to say, have alternatives, transportation. So have the electrification of the zip car for car sharing, have the e-bike charging. those are all things that we still could potentially do either through a bylaw or through ZBA and say, here's, again, here's our, if someone's coming for here's our wish list of things that are environmentally conscious and transportation conscious as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I didn't think we were kind of reinventing the wheel, because we were just gonna be taking like ones that were already done in other towns for this, like Watertown and Boston. So I thought it was kind of not a big lift for us to kind of go forward with those two.
So those are already kind of written things. The struggle for us, at least what the legal town council is saying, is what our challenge to trigger those and get them, into our code to be enforceable from a building code perspective. So that wasn't so much the stuff that we were putting in, is how do we trigger and enforce this, where through a bylaw that doesn't step on building code. So that was where I ran into a challenge. So whereas we have the stretch code, a lot of the stuff that we want to do is in the stretch code that is coming, and then the specialized gets us almost all the way there. And then the bits and pieces where, like I was saying the electric car sharing and that stuff, I think we still can address through other means.
Okay.
Now, I might be misremembering from the PV and EV proposal that you presented a couple meetings ago, but I thought that was only for residential, and it looked like the stretch code and the opt-in specialized apply to all new construction, right? The office
Correct.
buildings and labs and also,
Yeah.
so kind of sounds like we're getting bonus coverage of other building types, not just residential.
We're bringing in the commercial.
I don't know how much new commercial we're building in Wakefield these days, but
I mean, there stuff pops up. Stuff pops up here and there. Like at the bottom of almost the bottom of my street, but on Richardson, like we had the new Santander Bank built. We also have all the stuff out in this construction that happens out in Edgewater area. Buildings pop up here and there, and so we're just in a position to when the new construction comes, to put it, and the stats that they were given, basically 1% of all square footage is new construction, year over year, and then 27% of all buildings by 2050 will have been constructed, past 2023. So I think there's a lot there that we would capture, and we wouldn't have to worry about the retrofit afterwards. And it is, as everyone here knows, it's much cheaper to do things in new construction than it is to retrofit. So I went way past 15 minutes, sorry.
No, it was good information.
And
Thanks.
I will send out the link to this. This is a state link. And then I have a subsequent recording of the actual Department of Energy doing this proposal, who did a much better job than I did. But it is about an hour and 10 minutes long.
So basically, we just need to wait for the state to finish the finalization of this.
Correct. Yep. And I think, when they're getting closer, I think we have someone from, like Neil, who presented us when we did Green Communities, someone from his group or MAPC, whoever's doing the rounds to, kind of give us a little more official state update as a body. So, maybe we, start scheduling them for, November, October, November, to give us the update where they're at, and then, be prepared probably, depending on where our December meeting falls and they get released at, so either December or January, for us to vote to bring forth sponsor a warrant article to adopt the opt-in stretch code.
Okay. Great, thank you.
No problem.
So let me share again. So next is a discussion on subcommittees, but maybe we're not supposed to call them subcommittees. So basically it's this list kind of that's already in here. And we did have a spreadsheet that was used as discussion last year. Can you guys see that? No, share that.
Julie, what's the name of your cat?
This is Ella. She has a twin sister, Ruthie, who's not as friendly.
So this is the list of kind of priorities that were put together. I think is it 2 years ago at this point, or was it last year?
When Rob was here, so at least
Yeah,
2
it's
years.
2 years, yeah. So like priorities, and then this was related to the municipal vulnerability. I can't say it. Municipal vulnerability.
I think it's program.
Preparedness or something.
Preparedness. Yep, no, you're right.
Yeah,
Preparedness.
okay. So this was the category related to that. We were trying to kind of align it to that program, and then you know, which entities would be involved in each priority, what our role would be, and then like who would lead it. So we don't have to go by this, but this is just kind of a framework that was used previously to identify subcommittees, whatever we want to call it. And so I wanted to have a discussion on you know, whether we want to use this list, create our own list. I'm sure we should create our own list since we have new people, and kind of have people sign up for the different groups. And then, you know, we can also have, you know, when we have the volunteers, we can have them sign up to be in the groups as well, to work on different initiatives.
Can you explain the subcommittee structure and like, I feel like someone mentioned last time, like if something's a subcommittee, then it also has to have open meetings and do notes, minutes, and follow Robert's rules and all of that stuff?
Yeah, that's why we may not want to call it subcommittee if we don't want to be that formal.
They're kind of working groups. And if we are going to have a meeting, we should post it. But I mean, I think, you know, who's ever on these groups can kind of see what's going on in other areas and report back on them too.
So in this context, what constitutes a meeting? I mean, if a couple of people are working on something, can exchange information, like how does that get controlled?
It's yeah, I mean, if it's a constituted subcommittee, even if it's only 2 people, then the 2 people are deliberating, so they have to do it in public, and it has to be a posted meeting. So I think as we're getting more formal, we probably are not going to get around kind of having subcommittee meetings. But you can post it and kind of meet at Chibo or meet, you know, you can meet somewhere as long as anybody can join you. But you do have to be careful about deliberating either in person and especially by email. I just heard that there's a really good primer on open meeting law that our town council, who's excellent, who did it for this committee a couple of years ago, but now that we're all on Zoom, it's been recorded with the HRC, and that's going to be circulated to everybody. So that's probably worth listening to.
And I mean, I think we actually did this document like this time last year. And I mean, I think we started by just sort of saying what people's priorities were. And I think the challenge that we were responding to then, which I think we still have now, is that, you know, environmental sustainability is so broad and so many different avenues that we could go down that we started to feel a little bit paralyzed. And it was hard to sort of track impact because we just felt like that we were responding a lot to, like, there's a lot of priorities in town or a lot of opportunities, and we didn't want to leave anything behind. And so we're feeling like we just kind of need to get everything on the table about what people are interested in and then prioritize. And so the ones that were at the top there, those were already underway. The Clean Lake Committee no longer exists, so we might think about something around the lake, but that was sort of an entity at that time was sort of formed. But the rest of those were sort of underway. And so we didn't really have control over it, but we felt like it was important to have a voice there and sort of be tracking it. And like all the incredible work that Robin's been doing on the schools, like, you know, that's not our process, but we don't want to sit idly by while it happens either. And then the other ones were sort of like, what were people interested in? And so we formed at that time sort of 2 subcommittees on topics and then one on sort of public education or sort of thinking about new ways of engaging people. And so at that time, what we came up with as the priorities was one on waste reduction and the other on sort of land protection and green spaces. But we're not tied to those. That was just sort of the priorities. And I think we made some progress. That's why they're on the agenda. But I think if people had other interests, it is a good time to think about those or share them with Melissa offline, or, you know, just sort of think about if there's something that should be here that's not here in terms of a work group or an interest group or whatever we want to call it. You know, we want to make sure that the committee reflects the members who are here and on it and putting in their time. And so it feels satisfying and that we're working on the right stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how we want to do this. If you want me to circulate this and people can, you know, whatever topics they don't see on here and, you know, show their interest in, you know, ones that are on here, ones you want to add. What do you think works best? Because I believe we have to vote on them, correct?
I think if we're going to form formal subcommittees, then we have to vote on it, is my understanding, Robin. I mean, we did that
I
already.
have no
so
idea if we
to.
have to vote on subcommittees. That's an interesting rule on the,
I don't know.
never come up for me. So I don't
I
know.
don't remember voting on them last time.
I don't think well, I mean, I guess we probably should.
Well,
I
I mean,
guess one question is, do we think they'll be a lot different than last year's, or is there any, you know, what's the value of continuation or continuity?
For one, the land use one, I feel like is where I would like to put my time. I think that sort of, you know, with the inclusion of green spaces and the open space plan, that, I mean, so I would.
Yeah, they're
totally
gonna
up
want
for
our
that one.
help on the open space plan, and we're gonna have to really liaise with the Conservation Commission this year, I think.
And I'm interested in staying involved in that. And I think really the lack of engagement that we've had the last few months was really just because Mary, past member, had a lot of energy for it and then was unavailable right before she stepped down. So I don't think that, I think it is a priority, and I think 3 is the sweet spot number. I'd certainly be willing to do the coordinating work of making sure we chat in whatever format we're allowed to chat.
But I do think, I mean, I think it's worth also, like, you know, Julie, I don't know what you think about sort of soliciting other ideas, because, you know.
Yeah,
No, of course. Yeah.
just because we have new people and, you know, new ideas are always welcome.
You know, I mean, like the whole stretch code thing, maybe there's something to be done around that. I mean, there's just a lot of things happening. The town council just did our retreat and kind of looked at the big things that were coming for the year. And I don't think that they're a big surprise to anybody, but obviously the high school. And and how to spend the ARPA money, which really does actually kind of speak to land use and parks and aligning it with the vision, the 2030 vision that talks a lot about that. So we just should keep our eye on those things. That might include a walkway around the lake and a lot of kind of lake cleanup. This may be the year we can get some stuff done on the lake. So even though the lake committee has, it's actually still listed on the website, but I'm not sure it's meeting, but I do think there'll be some activity around the lake if there's people who are willing, if there's something we can lend our voice to, this might be the year there's some funding for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our priorities have changed. I mean, we're basically done with green communities. I mean,
True.
we're done. So I think we may want to kind of reorganize this list and reprioritize and have new ideas and revamp it.
Well, so does the town have a list of priorities that it's looking at?
I wouldn't say that we have a list. There's probably not one single list. But I mean, it will be in the minutes coming out of this retreat. I can, in fact, I can read you kind of what they, I mean, I have the draft minutes. They are lake, open spaces and recreation is very high. I would say every counselor talked about better walkability, better, better sidewalks, more open spaces. So I think that is probably the biggest. Trees was actually mentioned by a lot of people. The downtown revitalization, obviously, which is probably a little outside of ours, but the whole re-envision the downtown, housing, less development and more like housing, senior housing and aging in place and keeping people here and housing prices. I mean, I would say those are kind of the big ones.
So my thought is that we should start with the town priorities and how we can interact and give our experience for those, and then have our own set of things that we're interested in and that we want to try to improve and so forth. And maybe use this as a baseline, or maybe throw it out and just start all anew. And the subcommittees, I think, are valuable. Again, it gives focus to certain things, and it aligns certain people that have a vested interest in those agendas and so forth and so on, which again gives structure and sets up an environment for success, more than just saying, okay, we have this and what do we do with it and all of that type of stuff. So, but I think we should start with the town priorities and then have our own priorities, our own agendas and priorities. And then see where that goes with the subcommittees and stuff.
If you want to put me on the agenda for the next meeting to do that, and in the meantime, I can kind of, once the minutes come out, I will share those as well. But
To go over the town priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I'll put a stab on it. So you're gonna, Melissa, you're gonna share this spreadsheet, right?
Yes, so I will share the spreadsheet, and people can feel free to add their names to anything that's already in there or add new topics and put your name on it, and we can review that at the next meeting. And I don't think we need to vote, it sounds like. And then, so Julie, you're gonna give us a talk on the priorities, or you want to just send that beforehand?
I can just send it. I'll send it around.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then I'll take a look at this and again, I'll send around, my take on the structure of this and the priorities, and it'll probably be similar to what you see in this spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, everybody will be giving their input on, this spreadsheet and what they're interested in and any ideas they have. So Ken you know, you can send me your feedback, and then I can put it all together and we can basically look at this file again next time and are interested in. And then we can prioritize during that meeting. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Great. Back to the agenda. So speaking of committees, we are doing some updates from our committees. So the waste reduction subcommittee, I signed us up for the Trex challenge again that we did previously to collect the plastics and get that bench. And the only challenge we have right now is that Home Depot is not a participating entity in that challenge this year for some reason. So we need to basically talk to, it seems like a supermarket is really our only option, like Shaw's or Stop and Shop. And see if we can kind of partner with them and for the and that part of the challenge, which we were doing with Home Depot, and DPW was kind of spearheading that. So Anne, I don't know if you have thought about, you know, which business we should go with.
So I've been trying to get a hold of the manager at Shaw's, and I haven't had any luck. I've been down there, I've emailed, I've called a few times. So I also tried the corporate headquarters, and I left a message with them to see if someone would call me back early in the week, but I haven't heard from anybody.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how you guys went about it with Home Depot, like who was your
Yeah, when we went to Home Depot, we talked to the manager and he was all about it and showed us a place to leave it. One of our thoughts was that we could put a barrel at Shaw's. I tried to convince them in my email that might be a good way to increase their traffic and also have a drop for us. So I'm hoping that gets the ideas rolling and they might do it, but I'll stay on it and keep you posted.
Why can't we do a drop somewhere? Like last time, wasn't it at Town Hall?
Yeah, but then we bring it to one of the participating entities in the Trex program, who then, you know, gives it to Trex.
Got it. Thank you.
And it's a lot. Like you just can't, you kind of have to let them know it's coming.
Yeah, we were doing it weekly in a pickup truck, a pretty good size one, and dropping it off. So I don't think the front of Shaw's could take it. You know, we would have to make an arrangement to bring it to the back loading dock or somewhere like that. If they won't take it in Wakefield, I will try Melrose, because when I was in Melrose, they were willing to let us leave them at the loading dock, and Whole Foods was also. So
Oh, okay.
Whole Foods is one of the participating grocery stores. I mean, it would be nice to work with somebody in Wakefield, but
yes.
If we can't get a hold of anybody.
Remember, they just stopped using like 10-ton plastic a couple of months ago.
Julie loves Shaw's. Was it Market Basket and Stop and Shop, were they on that list?
I'm not sure about Market Basket, but I know Stop and Shop was.
So maybe we can try them.
I know Market Basket, I don't know if they are participating in Trex, but they do, you know, in their bottle recycling, they have actually, they're one of the larger bins to deposit, you know, bags to be recycled. So, but maybe worth while checking with them, see if they're participating in Trex.
And do you think contacting Stop and Shop would be good?
Yeah, I'll if I don't hear from Shaw's by tomorrow, I'll start exploring some of the other options.
Okay, great. Yeah, so basically we just need to you know, get an agreement with one of the stores that we can drop it off, and then for the Trex challenge, we just need to decide on a start date And then the challenge runs for 6 months. If we meet the goal of, I don't remember what the weight is, then we get another bench. But I don't think the one that we won has been installed yet, is it?
I was gonna ask that question. What's the status of the one that's already here?
We still have it. We're just waiting for instructions on where you want it installed.
Oh, we should do that.
I thought Susie was reaching out to the school folks.
Yeah, I think this is on me. I was supposed to reach out, figure it out, and I haven't yet. So I can ask the school folks if there's a school that needs a bench. You know,
I think
otherwise-
Greenwood was the first to raise their hand when we originally did it, but see where the need is.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll ask Greenwood. I mean, they have that beautiful green.
They
space
have
too
the,
that
they
I
have the
know.
community garden where they just did the whole pollinator thing.
I know. I'll ask around in the Greenwood community.
Julie, do we need, two questions. Do we need to formally as a town accept the gift? And then if so,
Yes.
has the town council done that?
No, we haven't. Well, that's a good question. I will look into that.
I want to say there was a question on if this town council was accepting or if the school committee was
School committee.
accepting.
I think you're right.
Because
I
it
think
was
the
A
school
matter
committee.
of whose property it was.
And I think we're waiting to see if the school needs it, you know, because it's only one. I think sometimes they try to match or whatever. And if not, if we're looking for another place. So let me follow up with the schools and
Okay.
see if it makes sense for them.
I mean, it would be
if-
really nice to maybe do like install it and do a little ceremony and press release on it and then kick off the new thing.
Yeah,
The new, like we can do a little marketing around it.
Have a barrel
Yeah.
for.
great. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was that I bought 2 more TerraCycle boxes. Because we have a whole boatload of plastics waiting for us at DPW that were overflow from the
Oh,
recycling.
and you guys must be ready to kill us.
So there was
Oh,
a
good.
sale on the TerraCycle boxes, so I took advantage of the sale and the rest of the ESC budget for the year. And so I just bought 2 more large ones. I'm sure it's not gonna be take up the whole amount that's there, but it'll be, you know, something.
And then I guess what's our appetite for doing more such collection at farmers markets?
So yeah, once we get the Trex challenge, it would be probably, you know, part of that. But you know, if we want to do a different TerraCycle collection, that's not, because like the Trex stuff is the same as the TerraCycle box we're collecting. So if we want to do something different, we can. So think about that. There's lots of options on TerraCycle. That's it for the waste committee. On the land use committee.
I
Nothing.
think
to
we're getting
report. I
ready
don't
for
know
our
if-
big relaunch, right, Sean?
Yeah. Expressions of interest are being solicited at this moment.
Okay, cool. We don't have any.
And I'm planning personally a hike, a little walk on Butler Ave. I drove by it today and it was calling me, so I don't know. But
I do have an update. Well, I can give a little update on Butler Ave at my part.
What's going on in Butler Ave?
So Butler Ave is the piece of land that the town bought back at town meeting a year ago because it was contaminated, right? So the DEP, we're still capping it, and we're still waiting for the permits from the DEP. So basically, we're probably a couple of months away from, at least we'll have a map that shows what part can be built on and what can't be built on. And then as a town, we're gonna have to make a decision what to do with that piece of land. And though I think there'll be a lot of pressure for senior housing there, but I think that we can really look at it and figure out how to do both, you know, parks and open and make it a really, you know, we can figure out what to do there. We should
How big is
definitely, this committee should definitely stay on top of it and have us and be vocal on what we want there.
So what committee is
It'll be the town council.
okay.
Well, it'll be the town council that, it'll be all be done in town council. We'll look at the maps and then we'll probably put a proposal for town meeting, but in the end, it'll be a town meeting, but there'll be a lot of input into what should be, what should be done there. I mean, I think what I'm leaning towards is let's get the whole thing designed as a town and have it be exactly what we want to be. And then we can sell it to a developer with all of the requirements on it. So we're not just going to sell it and let a developer do it. Like we would really, or we can say we don't want to sell it. I mean, we can see what the value to the town is. But there'll be some pressure to recover the 2 million we spent on it, more or less.
It's 11 acres, Melissa. To your question, it's my
Okay.
recollection of how big it is. It's very narrow and very deep.
Okay.
And so it goes all the way back, and it's pretty back there. It's like there's
It's
ledges
beautiful.
and
And there will
Yeah.
definitely be areas that will not be built on just because they won't be able to be built on. So
I have no
think
idea where Butler Ave is.
we'll do a tour. We'll do a tour. We'll post it and do a tour.
Okay. Sounds good. We don't have any students here and we don't, school building. Robin.
No news on the Northeast Voc from meetings. They have, just as an aside, they are going after ARPA money to help fund their project. They're trying to reduce the burden on the communities. So in case anyone is wondering about that. For the high school, I actually haven't been able to attend any meetings recently. I think they've only had one in the last month. So there's one tonight actually got moved to next week. So next month I should have a better update because they are supposed to be transitioning from the last study into formal schematic. So I'll know more next time. And I also wanted to report last time I was here, I gave a mention that the Mass School Building Authority, the folks that are granting the town a lot of money to help build the project, hosted a green school building forum. I wasn't able to attend the whole thing because it was an all-day event. Julie, did your husband get to attend some of
I
it?
don't think so.
Someone needs to wait from Wakefield need to watch some of it. They had a couple things. One was about, so Saugus Middle High School recently achieved the highest rating in LEED. It was LEED Platinum. And some things are kind of straightforward, but some things I didn't realize they included was the town wanted the use of gray water. So that's the idea that toilets are not flushed with clean water. It's water that was previously used by a dishwasher. Like who cares what wastewater is used to flush away? And so that was part of their project as a way, got them credits. And I had not heard of a public school using gray water. So I'm excited that they did, and hope that maybe this is things that we can bring into our high school. And I have some notes on more about the Saugus. The other one that topic that professionally, I'm really great that they talked about, and Wakefield needs to get on it. And Julie, correct me if I misspeak of how the facility is run, but we need to have someone staffed that understands these building systems. These buildings cannot be maintained by janitors. They need to be trained by engineers or folks that are basically engineers. These buildings, the efficiency and the operations are complicated, but it saves money. It makes life more comfortable for everybody. So we can't make it too simple because then you won't get the value and life cycle costs that we need. So we need to be hiring somebody with a skill set that can do this. So they had a presentation.
We should talk about that. That would never have occurred to me.
So there was a presentation by a gentleman who's a past municipal employee, I think of Newton, but he shared job descriptions that have been tweaked by Burlington, Newton, Watertown, Saugus, as what are you looking for this person of skill set? And maybe we have someone in town don't do it, but Wakefield's like a lot of other communities. We just, the folks that ran buildings before are not the types that can do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say we have one way or the other.
And so I got a
this is
copy of
conversation for the DPW. Yeah.
So
And school
DPW runs
facilities.
the,
And
what's that?
school facilities. Yeah.
Well,
I don't even,
that's part of the confusion. Every
Yeah.
community So,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you guys at your level are talking about it, but the sooner you get somebody who has the skill set either identified in your portfolio now or hires them, they will help with the design, because then they're knowing what they're getting, and they can also speak to, the communication with the users on a different level. And we'll just, I've heard things about the Galvin that, oh my God, things are, I've heard, the things aren't, working correctly as you would have expected. And it probably is that somebody undid a setting, unintentionally, either put it on vacation mode or, turned it off. And you just need somebody who knows not to undo things that are going to make the building work great. So it was great that MSBA had this person to the audience. It is because why spend all this money if you're not happy with it? And it's all because you don't know what you got.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
Robin,
Yep.
about that, I used to be a facilities manager and stuff like
Oh, there
that.
you go.
And what ultimately, there was in the semiconductor industry as well. So what ultimately we did is we went to at that time was Honeywell, and they installed the systems and they maintained the systems, okay, within the school. And they've extended this to beyond HVAC, to other types of systems, lighting, and things like that. So, I mean, it's another option to take a look at. There are third parties out there that do these types of things.
And we talked about the pros and cons of hiring outside companies. One disadvantage is that if you have a trouble, you have to call a random person. They don't necessarily know your facility. They know the equipment, but they don't know the nuances. And while everything now is on a cloud or available online and they could tap into it, they would, whoever's going, that tech who goes into it doesn't know you. And also it's a 24-hour service and you're paying for that. So there's a different approach where you hire somebody, which has the disadvantage the person goes on vacation. But, so there's we talked about the pros and cons of both, and the community would need to decide what worked better for them from a cost and operational standpoint. Accountability changes when it's a employee versus a company you hire, pros and cons. So something for us to advocate as the school project moves ahead. And because it has financial, it has to be, people have to think about it from a budget standpoint.
So is there anything we should be looking into coming up as far as the school building next steps?
Because I missed their last meeting, although based on the agenda, it was kind of like next week's agenda is them talking about the summary of where they are in turn and going into the schematic mode. So I'll know more. And the VOC, I'm really curious on why they've not had a meeting in March, which makes me wonder that the Friends of the Forest were able to get the state involved. That's pure speculation, but the fact that they have not had another public meeting makes me wonder if that changed things. So I don't know. I keep looking on their website, and I have no idea. I haven't made a phone call, but I do know the Gas and Light have been talking with them, so I'm sure Tom can keep us filled in on that end.
Don't they have to have a public meeting? They can't just.
Yeah, no, it has to be public.
Yeah.
They don't make it so easy. But so they just haven't had any. Even when they do have them though, they have them in person. Hard times. Hard to get to rooms.
Convenient.
Yeah. And I think they do public participation last.
Nice. Sounds like nice people. Okay. Thank you, Robin. So we don't have any school committee members. Hopefully we will next time. I think they have to assign somebody.
Do they know to assign somebody?
Yes, they do know that, and it's just been, they've had a couple committee member absences at the last meeting.
Okay,
And so they do know that, and I think they are working on it.
Thanks for being the liaison with the school committee.
Town council.
I don't think I have a lot. We did vote for the green communities, as did the school committee. And so that should be being submitted this month. I haven't gotten 100% confirmation on that, but we're working towards that. I think that's it. We only had one meeting in June because of town, in May because of town meeting. So I don't think nothing else comes to mind. I will say though that it's not town council, but Festival by the Lake is Saturday, and I'll be there all day with the Safe Streets Working Group. So if you guys stop by, especially people I haven't met in person, please stop by and say hi. Assuming I don't get COVID from my husband, who's had it for a week. I'll be there.
All right, thank you. WMGLD update.
Yep. As I mentioned, we had looked at potentially expanding the gas moratorium. That's just kind of tabled for the reasons described. So it is just standing as the multifamily. And then there has been a good working with the vocational school. We have drafted a letter, a memorandum of understanding between the VOC and Gas and Light for around backup generations, life safety, battery, so that this whole idea of energy park. And this will also include our high school as well. As part of that, we've gotten good feedback anecdotally. This has been received really well from them. I don't think that they have formally. There's been some redlining back and forth and some clarification around that. Gas and Light, as part of that, is also going to provide 5 EV chargers, so that's 10 spots for free of charge. The rooftop solar, Gas and Light will also install that on top of the VOC. With the VOC getting the real-time energy benefit, so what the VOC consumes, they'll get, and then the rest of that, the excess would flow back to the energy park, and the Gas and Light, we as a town get all of the green attributes from that system as well. We're providing energy efficiency incentives to them as well. So some of the stuff that they potentially wouldn't have gotten through Mass Save, we're giving them through our commercial EE program. And we're also giving them a kind of a rebate, or call it a cost reduction in terms of their interconnection costs, which they've budgeted for. So anytime a building gets put on the system, both gas and electric, there's a interconnection cost that happens, and it's standard in the industry. We're giving them, a $300,000 credit on that. So, they have budgeted basically $500,000 for their interconnection costs, which is pretty much on par. So that's kind of the update. It's, they've been working really well with us. I think that there's a meeting almost weekly between us and them. So I think we've this body and other bodies have really helped move the needle forward from where we were at. Any questions? No, then that's all my updates.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, DPW.
So we hit 400 subscribers to Black Earth. We have 20 starter kits left, so that'd be 230 have gone out already, so we only have 20 left. We're in the process of working on the RDP grant. It's due on Wednesday, so we just have a couple more updates to do, and then we'll submit it.
What's that?
It's a DEP grant, and it's based on solid waste and recycling. So you get points for certain things. So because we negotiated a contract with Black Earth and we have people subscribing, we're giving out the starter kits, we'll get 1 point. And for Wakefield, each point is worth $1,300. So it used to have a minimum, you had to have 10 points to even be qualified, but this year they changed a lot of the rules. So every point gets you $1,300. So if you only have 3 points, you still get $1,300 for each one. I'm guessing we're probably in the between 8 and 12 points we're gonna receive when we're done.
Does this include things like the library of things and all of that stuff as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It took us a long time to get to this point. Great job.
And do you know what, like, just, and it could be a ballpark, what our trash contract, what do we pay for, you know, a ton?
So we pay 90, right now we pay $90 a ton.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm just looking at Black Earth, you know, we're diverting 1.6 a week. So.
Yeah, I'm happy with Black Earth. I have a call into them because I've noticed on some of the new subscribers, there's a little lower rate if they want to go every other week, because we have had inquiries where people don't think they have enough for each week. But it looks like I saw 3 recently where Black Earth offered an every other Thursday option.
Huh.
So if that is true, we will start advertising that, but I haven't confirmed that with them, so I want to do that first.
Our neighbor signed up for that. They saw the buckets on the street and they contacted you, and they're new residents of town and they were so excited, but they signed up for every other week, and I was surprised, but.
Yeah, I think it is a good option for people who don't have that much, you know, a single person maybe. We did have some inquiries at the event that Representative Garabedian ran at the high school, and a few people were like, I don't think I have enough for one, or I live in an apartment, I don't need an every week pickup. So this could be a good option to offer.
That's great.
I want to do a shout out to Farmland. I walked by there the other day and my dog reminded me of where their compost bins are. And I'm so excited. Well, I don't love that they make that much waste, but I love that that waste is going into Black Earth and not to the trash, because I think there's like 9 really big barrels, and I don't know if they fill them all, but I mean, that's a huge value. So nice job, Farmland. Any chance Shaw's want to jump on that bandwagon? You could add that to your conversation, Ann.
I can't get them to answer the phone, let alone.
Well, is there, I mean, could we promote that? Are there any of the restaurants in town doing it, or anywhere else where we could?
Early Harvest was at one point. I don't know if they still are, but at one point they talked about being composters. But yeah, no, if we know
Yeah,
of
Like, I
them.
feel like if we got the list, we could promote and celebrate the ones who are doing the right thing, and maybe that's a little public pressure for some of the others to join in. I also wonder how much there could, raising awareness about that might help the restaurants who have switched from their styrofoam or plastic takeout containers. It'd be really nice to have folks say, you know, yes, this is, you know, it meets the Black Earth compostable list when you get a sandwich from somewhere.
I would say that might be an initiative to think about for our priorities. I know Melissa and I are more Melissa than I talked about kind of like a green, I don't know, a green incentive.
Green designation.
Green designation for restaurants.
Yeah.
So that could be, you know, something that we work on. Anything else, Anne?
Just the last thing, the NWA is coming to Festival at the Lake. They're bringing their bubbler this time. So it comes full with water, and you can fill up your water bottle on Saturday from 10 to 4.
Great.
Should we also promote, and I know the cardboard collection is back at Nahant, at the yard waste place. I feel like that was around last fall, and I was psyched about it, and then it went away for the winter maybe, and is back. And I feel like I haven't heard a lot of promotion of it. That should be getting full constantly, all the shipping going.
We actually are every weekly now bringing it up to So, which is great. And now we're actually trying to get a bigger dumpster so we can fit more on our way up. So, yeah, I'll talk to Jen McDonald and see if we can start. We get the numbers weekly of the tonnage, so we can start doing a monthly, letting people know. Sure.
That's awesome.
And
Okay,
that's all I have.
thank you. So our next meeting is scheduled for July 14th. So we're gonna have to continue with the virtual meetings, unfortunately, for the rest of the year. The state has decided that that's what we need to do, apparently.
I did bring it up at our last meeting, and and I said we wanted to do it, but yeah, not immediate, but I think we won't have to wait forever.
Melissa, I'm not available on the 14th.
I'm not
unfortunately.
either.
Not either. I'm camping.
Oh, I have a public meeting. I have to work.
I'll be in the woods. I don't think I'll have enough
Lucky you.
reception for a
I'll be
Zoom
on a
call.
cruise. I'm cruising around Salem Harbor for a client.
Oh.
Your work commitments and mine, Julie.
I
they're
know,
both-
I have fun clients.
So we can move it to the 21st if that works for people.
I don't know. The movies by the lake are that night.
Oh,
I didn't know if anyone
Which
has.
movie?
I don't know which one. Just had to look at the
it's
calendar.
the 14th is a movie by the lake too. It's in Kanto because I'm upset.
Oh, okay. So it's on every Thursday.
Yeah, it's every Thursday for like 5 weeks.
Okay. I just yeah, like that.
I guess we don't have to have it on Thursday. I don't think.
No.
How about,
21st works for me.
okay,
So
so the 21st. Okay. But we can still, I think, have a in-person like social gathering and not like a, formal meeting if people are
I
interested.
think we meet at the community garden and have a picnic.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Julie,
just
how's
can't
the
talk about
community
work.
garden going? Are you loving it?
Yeah, are
I
you gonna
am.
supply the veggies?
I am loving it. I make no promises. Yeah, I have lots of parsley.
Oh, did you get the
Only
plot
because
with
that
the-
was left in my plot from somebody else.
you have the plot with all the parsley?
I have lots of parsley coming to Bullies.
We have a good chimichurri recipe. We'll trade you a chimichurri for, something else.
So yeah, if you guys are interested, we can throw around some dates to do that. Because we haven't met in person ever.
I mean, the other thing we have is just so, I mean, this, we don't have to meet there, but July 17th is the open streets around the lake from 12 to 4, where one lane of Main Street will be closed and part of Common will be closed. And there's gonna be a lot of like bike rodeos and bike walking things.
When is that?
Sunday, July 17th, from 12 to 4. It's the Safe Streets Working Group. We'll have magnets on it, but so we're closing the southbound lane of Main Street all the way along the lake and part of Church Street, and then the state and actually the police are just got a grant to do helmet fitting and bike rodeo, and I think we're bringing in a bike mechanic from REI. And
So what's it called? What's the event called?
it's called Safe Street Sunday. Tiana knows because her mother's like #1 cheerleader.
Yes, I have several magnets on my fridge.
I have no doubt.
That sounds fun. So yeah, we can, figure out, we don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Come up
Maybe
with,
we should do like a doodle poll or something to collect dates for that.
Okay,
okay,
but we'll plan on the 21st for our next meeting.
yes.
Okay.
All right, do I motion to adjourn or somebody else has to?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second,
Tom,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tiana,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Myra,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Anne.
Yes.
All right. Meeting
Nice job,
adjourned.
Melissa.
Good job, Melissa.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Good night. Bye.